when you read the bylaw, like there's all kinds.
All right, thanks. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome to our Friday, November 19th, 2021 Board of Regents meeting. I would like to acknowledge that and say we have Regent John Shetler on the call. Good morning, John.
Morning.
Thanks for joining us. We have a full house here today. So we'll kind of kick right off here. We have a packed agenda and lots of people that are needing to catch airplanes at some point here today. So moving right along, a report from myself as the chair of the Board of Regents. We have had an amazing day and a half on the Vancouver campus. So I just would like to give Mel a big round of applause for being an amazing host. Thank you. Our morning discussions yesterday were outstanding. So thank you very much to those that gave us your time and shared your thoughts, and your presentations just were really, really thought-provoking and very exciting, I think, for where we need to be looking at for WSU. So thank you. We had the awesome experience of getting to participate in the groundbreaking ceremony for WSU Vancouver's Sciences Building, which is very, very exciting. That is a $52.6 million project and will be a new building on the Vancouver campus. A couple of really fun highlights that I think need to be stated is one, Mondo Antonino, who is the ASWSU Vancouver president. You were outstanding. Where is he? Oh, you did a great job. He has great shoes on today as well. Awesome Doc Martens. And I learned something from Representative Sharon Wiley around what it means to be house trained. Had never heard that before. So just a big thank you again to Representative Sharon Wiley and to Senator Dave Frocht for being here, as well as for their support of the project. It was something else, to say the least. And then we were able to wrap up our full day, if you will, with student ambassadors. And for those of us that got to spend some time with them, they were really, really outstanding and very impressive. So we appreciate, and please make sure you pass along our thank yous to them. So just a great all-around opportunity to be here on the Vancouver campus. I'd like to remind the audience, members of the public, that you're invited to view the Board of Regents meeting through the YouTube live stream. A link to the live stream is available on the Board of Regents website. I always chuckle my kids that I'm kind of a YouTube star. They just kind of roll their eyes like, please stop, Mom. So I also would like to provide a reminder that we have a public comment period during this meeting. The public comment period will be after the regular agenda items and will be up for 10 minutes. Each speaker will be allowed 2 minutes. Preference will be given to speakers who have signed up in advance and who are speaking to matters that are before the board or will be before the board at future meetings. If anyone has not signed up in advance and would like to, please sign up with our board assistant, Desiree Jacobson, and prior to your comments, please state your name, your affiliation, and the subject matter. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over now to President Schultz, who is going to provide us his report.
Thank you. So quiet. Well, good morning. And once again, thanks to our colleagues here at WSU Vancouver for just a great job hosting. I know they've loved having us all here, and they'll love seeing us all leave. So anyway, Mel, thank you very much, and to your whole team. I think I've been here all week, and it's been fun to spend some time with some prospective donors to our building. On Tuesday, Chris Mulick and I did some legislative visits in this particular area on Wednesday, and then a couple days of board meetings. So once again, thank you. I think it's been great. Just to start, I always like to do some positives in my update. Congratulations to our men's basketball team on beating the University of Idaho by the largest margin in like 100 years. So it was a fantastic game last night. And we, of course, had a Regents dinner, so we didn't get to watch it. But for those that were there, really had a great time. So great to see the Coug basketball teams, men and women, really doing so well. So if you have not seen a little picture on social media and other places of our women's basketball team with the banner for the NCAA tournament last year, it's amazing to see 1991, 2021, the same banner, that 30-year difference. It's super cool. So, all right. Today, I know Mel will have, as we normally do, our host campus has an opportunity to really showcase a lot of what they're doing. So my update's going to be relatively brief. First, you all have probably seen a lot of stuff in the news media about the great job our Cougs have done across all of our campuses around vaccinations. If you see here, our system vaccination rate is at 94% for employees. For our students, we're at about 88%, 87.3%. And these continue to kind of move a little bit as we work with our students, work with faculty and staff. At the end of the day, in terms of faculty and staff system-wide, we only separated from 17 employees. And I think that says a tremendous amount about how important people put vaccinations on faculty and staff. And secondly, for about a month, Human Resources did nothing else besides call and work with employees on a one-on-one basis to make sure they had documentation there and things like that. We had 0 faculty across the entire system that we separated with. So really pleased with how seriously everybody has taken this. And to be honest, we talk about football games, basketball games, music concerts, choral singing, people in the student unions, whatever. That's not possible if we don't have these high vaccination rates, period. That's what allowed us to do it. And we've only, in Pullman, for example, had single-digit COVID positives all through the semester. So I just want to commend our colleagues for the great job they've done with this. It was a little bit lost in the news around Coach Rolovich and football, but we were picked to lead our largest research grant in the university history, a $125 million USAID grant. WSU's the lead on this. We're partnering with 12 countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America. The goal is to collect over 800,000 samples in 5 years from wildlife. The process is expected to yield between 8,000 and 12,000 novel viruses. So it's great that we're participating, but it's even better that we're leading this particular effort. And I think you're going to continue to see these things. What I'd like to point out, though, is it's great that we did this, but you have to go trace back and say, what is it that was done in the past that allowed us to get to this point? And if I look at our last fundraising campaign, the establishment of the Allen School for, at that time, global animal health, and now it's just it's for global health, the hiring of some fantastic faculty, the retention of faculty that are members of the National Academy there that led this effort, you can see that long-term investment in people, in facilities, and in infrastructure starts making a big difference down the road. So I think it's always neat to kind of connect all these dots, because it's wonderful for me to be president when this has happened. But if you look back, it was really a lot of work that other people did that teed us up for this. And it's a reminder of the need to continue to invest in our faculty and staff across WSU. One of the things that we also did is a brand evolution. And you all may have noticed, if you look at the banner here on the side, the Washington State University, we're no longer using the little shield. I love the shield around the cougar head. No, Phil knows I hated it. But they did a complete brand refresh. If you've been getting emails from anybody about the university, you probably noticed the footers now got some consistency of look in terms of font and things like this. So this was not a radical change, but a set of consistency standards now that are being used across the system and how we brand ourselves. So Phil and his team worked hard on this. You can go to brandwsu.edu and download all the color palettes and all those kind of things. So I think you're going to continue to see this roll out over the next several months. We did some town halls this year, like we do every year, and what these are, just for those who may not be familiar, the provost and myself go to every academic college. We go to each campus, and what we wind up doing is typically we spend an hour meeting with the leadership teams. That's up to, if it was Mel, it would be him choosing who's in that room. If it's Todd Butler in Arts and Sciences, he kind of chooses what that leadership team looks like. That's completely open forum. We don't come with any presentation and just listen to concerns and things that people want to know. And then what we end up doing is an open forum, and we started switching them to Zoom last year. And one of the interesting things we found is the number of people participating when we did it via Zoom was 2x what it was when we were doing it in person. So this year, instead of us presenting a set of slides, we presented the slides once. I'm also already a YouTube star. We put it on YouTube, that sort of university updates, about 16, 17 minutes, where we went through enrollment and all those kind of things, and let people watch that on their own. And then we did a full maybe 5 minutes of opening comments that would be specific about those units, and then the rest was Q&A. And so we want to every year kind of look at what types of things that we can do to continue to improve that or to do it differently. But it gives us an opportunity to be out and about and hear the concerns from faculty, staff, and students across all of the system, and doing it multiple times. And there's some temptation sometimes to say, instead of doing 20, why don't you just do 3? But then you lose a little bit of the ability to tailor it to either a particular geographic location or faculty in a particular area. You would think the questions would all be the same. And they're not. You have 2 or 3 things that'll come up all the time, and then they'll be very specific to different units. And it's fascinating for me doing this 6 times now. Every unit's got a little different style to it that's reflective of their leadership and a little bit of, their psyche and background and things like that. So the individualized ones are important. It's a time commitment, but I think it's a good time commitment for us to make. One of the other things that we talked about yesterday was philanthropy, particularly with capital projects. And you'll see this chart multiple times over the next couple of years. And we've got really kind of 5 major projects that we're working on right now. The first is a College of Arts and Sciences new building for the Pullman campus. And this is several legislative cycles out. But we know, planning on it, there's no reason to start fundraising when we're a year away from construction. There's no reason to not start talking with donors now about what we're trying to do and accomplish, what's going to be in the building. We expect to get somewhere around $53 million from the state. That's kind of the number. We need to invest another $20 million on top of that to really get the kind of building that we need to. So we're actively starting to talk to people. Even though we're 4 years away from any kind of construction, now's the time to start lining people out. The Vancouver Sciences Building, you can see there's a little blue in there. That was $30,000. That's actually after yesterday. That's larger now. We have several proposals out in front of prospective donors in the 7-figure range about this building, and we expect to hear a bunch of that over the next month, and we expect a lot of yeses there. So I think you're going to see that increase. Our Voiland Student Success Building for engineering in Pullman, that blue bar continues to expand. We've raised so far almost $7.5 million for that. We've got a lot of other proposals out. If I would have shown you this a month ago, that was about half that size. So I've been flying around the country with Mary Rezak and the fundraising team from Voiland, talking about the need to invest in a facility. And what's important about this is what we want to be able to do is go to the legislature and say, we have raised $40 million in private money. We would like you as a legislature to do $40 million in state funds, and that we start leveraging things, not after the state's invested, but kind of with the state together. And we think this will allow us to basically extend those capital funds we get from the state, engage our donors in building infrastructure that's important to us. And I think you're going to see more of that. And then yesterday, the subcommittee heard about the Champions Complex and the indoor practice facility and where we are with fundraising for those. So as I shift to a more WSU system, do less stuff specifically on the Pullman campus, It allows me to be out supporting our deans and our chancellors more with donors. And as Mel and I talked yesterday on some of those visits we had Tuesday, what happened was they wanted to hear from me, is this important for Washington State University? And when I was able to say, yes, it is, then they said, oh, next we'll talk to Mel and Jennifer about the details, what we would actually do. So my role here is going to be to open doors, to build relationships, and to make sure that we're investing in our academic infrastructure using private dollars moving forward in collaboration with the vision that our academic deans and our chancellors have for their campuses and colleges. So it's always cool. I love pictures. So it's always one thing to talk about the dollars you're raising, just a little bit of visual about what these buildings could look like. And remember, these are artist renditions. These are not the finalized designs. They make sure you say all that stuff. The one at the top is our student success building for Voiland. That would be what we would really do is have a student-centered building where you have retention programs, you have tutoring, you've got a lot of things for student success. Doesn't matter whether you're an electrical engineer, chemical engineer, or whatever. We want to continue to diversify that STEM workforce, and we need to make sure we have facilities and infrastructure in place to take young men and women who want to be engineers and not have them drop out because they just didn't feel they were supported in the right way. And facilities are important. The indoor practice facility, and then of course the one down there, the sciences building here in Vancouver. We heard a lot about that yesterday, and look forward to working with all of you on that. So that concludes my report, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some successes. And it's been a really good semester so far. You have much to be proud of. The faculty and staff and students have just continued to do amazing things this semester, and we can get caught up in other kinds of things at times, but don't forget that. It's pretty stunning to see where we were in June and where we are today. So thank you.
Thank you, Kirk. Great report. Some really outstanding fundraising happening at WSU right now, so that's exciting. I'm going to turn it to our Chancellor for WSU Vancouver, Mel Metzhammer, and I believe you also will be sharing your time with a couple others.
That is true.
Great.
Mel, you said you got this down to 60 minutes.
Yeah. If we go 60 minutes, Gondez's face will, it'll be like lasers. Good morning, everyone. I am going to share my time with colleagues this morning. I appreciate your gratitude. I want to extend my own to my team. You know, we have been part of the Great Resignation as well, and both of the administrative assistants in my office resigned over the summer, and one is still vacant. My other started on November 1st. And Sherry Bennett, our chief of staff, started 2 weeks before we went into remote operations. And so while we've done this many times in the past, for our team, this was new. And so we thought we would spice it up by throwing in a groundbreaking and a luncheon and a week-long visit with Kirk. And so if you would
It's like having your in-laws back.
if you would give them a round of applause.
Yeah.
Like that.
It's 4 days.
So we had an opportunity to talk yesterday about some of the equity work that's happening at WSU. And I want to share my time this morning with two of my colleagues who are leading that work for our campus and continue that theme. Some of you may know Narek Danielian. He was our student regent, I think, in Kirk's first year, right?
Yes.
And so he now has joined our team since January as our assistant vice chancellor for strategic partnerships. And so he'll talk a little bit about those partnerships. And after Narek Obi Ford III, who you met yesterday, will talk about some of the things that Lisa had asked about particularly our BASE program, Building a Community of Equity. And then I'll talk through just a few other highlights to close things out. So, Naren.
Good morning.
Hey.
Chair Dickinson, President Schultz, members of the board. Thanks for the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you today. Strategic partnerships are central to how we do business at WSU Vancouver. During your visit, I invite you to stop in front of the steps leading up to the Dendrick Administration Building near the campus fountain. And I realize it's your last day here and it's raining, so maybe on your next visit, I invite you to do that. There you're going to find a plaque dated June 28th, 1996, which is the year this campus location opened. It reads, Washington State University, Vancouver, dedicated to providing access to high quality education, conducting meaningful research, and developing strong community partnerships throughout Southwest Washington. I give you this brief historical context to say that while the Office of Strategic Partnerships is relatively new, our commitment to serving our community through partnerships is not. The Office of Strategic Partnerships formed in 2019 to build on the existing foundation of valuable relationships we have with our region's businesses, government agencies, community-based organizations, and alumni. We work to advance regional priorities in the areas of student success, economic and workforce development, corporate engagement, and more. Our goal is to help solve real-world challenges for our partners by leveraging WSU students, faculty, and research expertise. Few examples demonstrate this collaboration as well as the Future Leaders Project. The initiative is a partnership between WSU Vancouver, Workforce Southwest Washington, and the Columbia River Economic Development Council. It aims to address the social capital and experiential learning deficits that students from historically underserved backgrounds often face. It gives students paid summer internships with local businesses that align with their educational pathway. The program is unique in that businesses sign an MOU agreeing to not only host a paid intern, but also take an active role in mentoring and connecting them to leaders within the organization and the industry. The initiative is recognized regionally as a key strategy for driving equity and inclusion in the current and future workforce. In a few minutes, you'll hear from our colleague, Dr. Obi Ford III, Associate Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Under Obi's leadership, WSU Vancouver has been leading the system in promoting a commitment to equity and inclusion and operationalizing that commitment by applying an equity lens to all that we do. Obi's office has developed the Building a Community of Equity program, also known as BASE. BASE has become a popular and important resource for faculty and staff across the WSU system. It's also been gaining notoriety within the Southwest Washington community, with more and more partners reaching out and requesting to access workshops. In response, Obi and his team developed the BASE Enrichment Series for individuals not affiliated with WSU to access BASE through sponsored partnerships with their employer or professional groups. This fall, the Office of Strategic Partnerships and the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion worked together to pilot a partnership through a professional services agreement with Workforce Southwest Washington, where their entire staff participated in all 5 Enrichment Series workshops. And you'll hear more from Obi shortly. Some of you may know that WSU was the recent recipient of 3 Department of Education grants to develop new TRIO programs that will serve low-income students. Under the leadership of Felix Barafith, Director of Student Equity, Success, and Inclusive Excellence, WSU Vancouver was awarded 2 of the 3 grants and will receive over $2.5 million to create programs that focus on STEM readiness and increasing college access among students at Hudson's Bay and Fort Vancouver High School. We hope that many of those students served by those grants will end up matriculating to WSU. When they do, we will need to be ready to ensure their success. That's why we'll be working diligently over the next few years to not only deliver on the outcomes of those grants, but also enhance the partnerships with those schools. And myself and others will be working alongside Felix's leadership to make sure that that happens. There are so many more examples of incredible partnerships throughout our campus. Our professional and corporate education program expands educational opportunities through non-credit and certificated programs in response to regional workforce needs and in partnership with businesses. A 3-year, $150,000 grant from Workforce Southwest Washington funds a position in our Career Action Center focused on employer engagement. And a growing presence in our downtown strategic partnerships office increases WSU Vancouver's visibility by putting us at the center of the downtown Vancouver economic boom. And the list really goes on and on. The Office of Strategic Partnerships had little, and in some cases, nothing to do with some of the partnership examples I've shared today, such as the case with student success, EDI, research excellence, so on and so forth. Partnerships are everyone's job and can't be confined to one office or one person. Having an office with partnerships as its primary focus should not and will not replace the amazing work happening at all levels across campus. It will, however, help us serve partners in a coordinated way by centralizing how partners connect with our campus community and vice versa. By continuing to move the needle on the projects I've mentioned and the countless efforts I simply don't have the time to mention, we will continue to fulfill our commitment to community as outlined by Goal 5 in WSU Vancouver's strategic plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have time for a
Yes.
question?
Yep.
Can you answer 2 questions? One would be how many students are served by the internship and mentorship program that you talked about on an annual basis? And then the other question, I'm just curious, in terms of the workforce development, what are you seeing as the greatest growth areas here in this region in terms of skill sets that you're being asked to serve?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of the internship program, it was piloted 2 years ago, and it was we started working on it right before the pandemic, and so our first year was really small. We had 4 interns and between 4 organizations that sponsored an intern. Last year was our second year doing it, and it was still, so the first year was fully remote, and so last year was we were able to do a hybrid where some companies still chose to do virtual internships and others did in person. And we grew the number of interns to 9 or 10 and the number of companies to 9 or 10. So over doubled. And then we, obviously we hope to grow it more and more over the next few years. And then in terms of the skills that businesses are asking for, I think, and this is where I think WSU Vancouver plays a big role, is they're really looking for a lot of the soft skills development is what we hear in terms of being able to work with diverse groups of individuals, being able to work in teams, having the ability to communicate effectively. So I think that's one piece of it where WSU's integrated all of those soft skills in the curriculum. And then there's obviously the technical side of it too, where, we need more scientists, we need more people going into tech, we need more engineers. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity with WSU Vancouver's placement here in Southwest Washington and being a part of the greater Portland metropolitan area where we can really help deliver on those needs.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. It's nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back, Obi.
Thank you. It feels like just yesterday.
Yeah. For some of us, it feels a little longer. But
Well, thank you so much. And I just want to thank my colleague, Narek, for such a warm introduction of what my discussion point will be today around BASE. And thank you to our Chancellor, Mel Netzhammer. Thank you, Board, and thank you, President Schultz. Where to begin with BASE? I think I want to share with you some contextual information about the program, and then also provide some information as relates to the internal and external facing BASE programs. When I arrived to WSU Vancouver in 2017, on my very first day, there was a pilot session for a BASE workshop. And it was so successfully received and well received by the community. And it being my first day, I appreciated the hunger of the community for this work around equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so by day 5 of my tenure at WSU Vancouver, I was told by members of our base team, it's time to release a full-fledged program. And so they entrusted me to develop and to spend a year in development and piloting of what has become known as the Building a Community of Equity program. In 2018, we went live as a full-fledged program. And the other thing that I want to highlight about BASE is that it is a strategic and proactive imperative in the WSU Vancouver strategic plan. It's rooted in Goal 4, which is to promote an ethical and socially just society through a commitment to inclusion, equity, and diversity. And so a little more context about BASE. It's rare that I get the question of, well, what does BASE do? Or what does BASE provide? Anymore, we get the request, right, to create a BASE program for organizations or to work with our fellow system siblings, right, to bring BASE into their units. But what I'll share with you as to what we do is to provide theoretical and practical frameworks for equity, diversity, inclusion, intercultural development, anti-racism, belonging, justice, and love. And love is really at the root of how I do my work, and I refer to that as love of a critical nature. We also provide brave and healing and inclusive space, supportive space, right, for self-reflection, for intergroup dialogue, mindfulness, skill building, and equity lens expansion, right? And I think a really great thing about BASE and a beautiful thing about BASE is that we have people from all experiences of this work and all experiences of life, right, showing up to engage in the program, right, from folks who are novices to these conversations and discussions to folks who are experts. And there's room to grow for each member and each participant, right? It's also important for us as a BASE team and a campus, WSU Vancouver, to provide those culturally sustaining resources and equity-minded tools to build a community of equity, right? And with that, the building of that community comes the disruption and the dismantling of systemic inequities, right? Such that we're impacting policies, processes, practices, and people, right? And my favorite part about the work that we do is rooted in what we discussed yesterday as it relates to equity mindedness, and that is to advance equity, right? Really affirming and supporting and empowering, right, our participants, our community members of faculty, staff, students, to activate advocacy and advance equity to become change agents. I have to give a shout out to our BASE team, as well as committee members and facilitators and partners in this work. Certainly, I appreciate Neric's kindness as it relates to my leadership, but something that I often say is that I surround myself with really smart people, and they're all smarter than me. And so we wouldn't be able to be as successful as we are without the support of Felix Braffith, Dr. Allison Chambers-Dixon, Dr. Rennie Christopher, who is a founding member of the BASE program, Michelle Eccles, Scott Frazier, Dr. Julia Getchell, Dr. Luz Maria Gordillo, our Graduate Student Association, Vancouver, GSAV, Dr. Thabiti Lewis, Dr. Christine Portforce, Dr. Catherine Rodella, Dr. Connie Nguyen Chuong, Dr. Shamim Raka, Eric Scott, Dr. Dominic Thomas, LaRonda Zupp, Brenda Alling and her team in marketing and communications, and the speaker before me today, Neric Danielian. Our BASE internal program, we've been able to realize more than 60% of our WSU Vancouver campus community as participants and engagers of the program, of faculty, staff, including graduate students. That partnership with GSAV and Dr. Christine Portforce has been just incredible, and we're continuing to build upon that. We also developed the BASE Pedagogy Academy, which is a summer academy for faculty, where we provide culturally sustaining and equity-minded classroom practices, processes, and policies. That's in partnership, again, with Dr. Catherine Rodella, Dr. Shamim Raqqa, and Dr. Thabiti Lewis. There's so much more that I could talk about as it relates to the internal, but I also want to get to the external partnerships that we have. Again, wonderful partnership with strategic partnerships, and we've been able to build our BASE enrichment series. Current partnership that we're working through right now with Workforce Southwest Washington. We're coming up on our final workshop on November 30th, and I'm really excited about that because they're going to present a series of change project proposals for equity, right? That's going to impact outreach, recruitment, retention, the work that they do in the community, right? And so again, that notion of advancing equity, but I think also critical to that, providing the tools and the resources, right? Many of these groups are groups that begin with refrains of, I don't want to say the wrong thing, right? I don't know what to say. And I often push back a bit and really lean in to say, well, listen, this is going to be the place to take that risk. If there was ever a place to challenge yourself and to risk saying the wrong thing, right? This is the place to do it, okay? And so the growth and the stretching and the expansion of this group has just been really wonderful to see. But we've also worked with Lift Up Portland, which is an organization that specializes in houselessness and food insecurity. The Notre Dame School of Santa Barbara, California, so BASE is reaching, across state lines. The Vancouver Public Library System, Regional Library System, Vancouver City Council, Partners in Diversity. And I also want to name our WSU system siblings that we've worked with, Development, shout out to Jennifer Miltenberger and her partnership with my office in this program, WSU Marketers and Communicators, the Institute for Research, Education and Community Health, also known as iReach, and the WSU librarians who bestowed upon me the title of honorary librarian. And so that was a big deal for someone who loves libraries, and of course, WSU HRS too. And so I think it's important to also note that many of these partnerships occurred in a sort of reactionary mode, right? We were in the midst of, and still, the ever changing and evolving and activism as relates to social justice and social change. We continue to and have been speaking names of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Manuel Ellis, Kevin Peterson Jr., and so many more, and the convergence with the pandemic, right, and the disproportionate impacts across communities and groups. And so thank goodness for a proactive program such as BASE during those times, and a program that will continue to expand and to sustain and to transform our campus community for equity-mindedness, cultural responsiveness, and inclusive excellence. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments for OB?
So I just want to make a comment that the work that OB and NERIC are doing in partnership with our community is absolutely leading. And so I think it is important to look at the good work that's happening at WSU Vancouver and to see it perpetuate in other communities, because when equity is talked about in Southwest Washington, it is associated with WSU Vancouver as the leader and the resource. And I think the partnership with Workforce also really activates what this means for building capacity within our organization. So just kudos from my perspective and what I hear in the community, that it's working, it's impactful, and minds are changing. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thanks, Obi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Obi.
Thank you.
So briefly, I wanted to just touch on three things in my remaining time. The first is related to COVID. I know that Regent Redmond likes to know about how morale is on campus, and I would say that it has been a mix of joy of being back face to face again. Whenever I talk to students, they are so thrilled to be back on campus. But it's mixed with anxiety, and people are still trying to figure out things, especially our parents, whether they're faculty and staff or students, to kind of make sense of what it means to be back together. And so we're still learning about that. I think that anxiety has gone down over the last couple of months because we have had no outbreaks on campus. The only example that we have of student-to-student transmission came from two students who commute together. So I think people are understanding that campus can be a safe space and that we can do things. We also have a really high vaccination rate, 96%, which I think is 1 point higher than the other campuses.
But who's counting?
Statistically,
thank you.
There's that
Statistically
competitive
insignificant. And a 92% vaccination rate among our students, which I think is a little bit lower than our sibling campuses. So that's where we are on COVID. A little bit about enrollment. We are down about 8% this year. That's about 225 students. That is not just a COVID issue. The enrollments at community colleges, which are our primary feeders to our student body, are down significantly. A decade ago when I started, Clark College had over 16,000 students. This quarter, they have 6,700 students.
Wow.
We were 2/3 transfer students, just Clark. When I started, we thought this might be our first year where we had more first-time students than we had transfer students. We had a rush at the end of the summer, and that wasn't the case. But we are needing to learn what it means to not depend on feeder schools to build the enrollment that we need, and that has been a focus. That is the number one goal in my goals for the year that I worked out with the president. So we've been doing other things. We introduced last year our PDX tuition advantage, which allows students in Portland to pay in-state rate when they come full-time. My colleagues both mentioned the TRIO grants that we have received. And we are about to participate in a guaranteed admissions pilot, which we are very excited about, also very connected to equity. It is designed to remove obstacles for students who want to go to college. And so students who have a grade point average and a college preparatory curriculum for our 12 school districts, we're negotiating. And let me say, WSU is participating in this more broadly, Tri-Cities and Pullman as well. But for the 12 school districts that are around us, they will provide us with the names of students who meet this grade point average and have the courses that they are expected to have, and we will send them letters of acceptance to Washington State University. And so we are really excited about being able to facilitate that. We're in all the schools. We're working very, very closely with them. And then finally, around strategic planning, it has been a challenge to do strategic planning when we were remote. Our previous strategic plan expired on June 30th, but there were still some things to accomplish. So we are still very committed to it. We've had a great team that has worked on revising that. We've done virtual campus meetings, and really our goals were reaffirmed by the campus community. Our mission and values were reaffirmed by the campus community. And so now we are looking at what are the strategies that will get us through recovery, whatever that means, and then into the next 5 years. And so that is our work going forward. We are now on a timeline. I do my State of the Campus address on February 1st, and that is the date that will bring forth the new strategic plan to our campus. We've also created an equity group that is looking at the strategic plan through the equity lens that we discussed yesterday to make sure that we keep equity front and center as we decide on the strategies and the objectives that we will include in our new strategic plan. And with that, I will stop.
Well, look, you're just right on time. So any questions, any comments for Mel as we wrap up our time with him here?
I have one question if we have time.
Yes, we do.
Just what do you think the biggest barriers are to students who do want to go to college choosing WSU Vancouver as opposed to Brand X?
I think that the barriers, I think that there are students who want a very traditional experience, particularly coming out of high school. They want fraternities. They want football games on the weekend. For those students, we are going to advise them to look at Pullman. We don't offer that. But we have a student who, Jennifer, has been working with the husband of the student who wants to, I get emotional about these things. He wants to honor her because she's going to be graduating in May, 81 years old. 3 years ago, the student who won the Chancellor's Award for Student Excellence graduated on the same day as her mother and her grandmother. And that is our student body. Those are the students who some are coming to us right out of high school. They want to stay close to home. Who knows, post-COVID, that might be an increased number of students, but it is a diverse student body in age. It is a diverse student body in gender, and we are increasingly diverse with our students of color. We have always been right. If you look at the diversity of Clark County, we're usually right about there, but we have been becoming a more diverse campus than Clark County, and we're very proud of that as well.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
And can I just make one comment?
Yes.
Just in terms of diversity. So some of the preliminary census data is showing that Clark County is actually seeing the greatest growth in people of color than in any other county in the United States. So what is being seen that we're experiencing in Clark County has been really the story for WSU Vancouver in terms of attracting diverse students. So really interesting.
Well, all the more reason that even helping our fellow colleagues at community colleges, that we support them to ensure that those, that there's a path for everybody.
Yeah, Regent Dickinson, I think that is very important. One of the things that I like to tell my team as we're attracting more first-year students is that we also have to be looking out for Clark College because their success is connected to our success. They are doing great work in this community, and we have a terrific partnership with them, and that's something that we want to make sure that continues to flourish.
Yeah. In every one of our communities, WSU has such an important role with our community colleges, from Tri-Cities to Spokane to Everett. So
yes, that is true.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Okay, we are going to move into our consent agenda portion of the meeting. We have 2 consent agenda items before us today. The first one is the approval of minutes from September 17th, 2021 for the Board of Regents meeting. The second one is the revision to the WAC 50431-020 conduct on campus code, prohibited conduct. I believe that is the fireworks. Mm-hmm. Yes. We just better known as the fireworks conduct. Do any of the regents here today wish to remove either of these items from the consent agenda?
Can I move for?
Hearing no requests for removal. See, look at the past chair. He's just trying to help me along here. I move to approve the consent agenda. So Brett.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Good.
Can we vote on this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Motion passes. Thank you. Now we get to move into the portion of our reports from our shared governance groups. Our first one will be our Foundation Board of Governors. Dawn Shearer is here today presenting for Mike Connell. Welcome, Dawn.
Morning. Thank you for letting me join you today. Mike expresses his regrets in not being able to be here, but I'm very proud to represent the entire advancement team to share this report with you from the WSU Foundation today. As of this morning, generous alumni, friends, and corporations and partners to WSU have made gifts totaling, check my glasses here, $51.67 million in total philanthropic commitments to the WSU Foundation during the fiscal year of 2022, which started on July 1st. This benefits our WSU campuses, colleges, and programs, and this represents an 18.3% increase over the same period as last year.
Wow, it's outstanding.
And WSU recently received several transformational gifts, including a commitment just in October from a WSU alumnus, Darren Alger, and his wife, Jamie, for $3 million to support the indoor practice facilities in Cougar Athletics. An anonymous $3.5 million gift for the WSU Carson College to endow a program for student success in accounting. We've also received another $3 million commitment to the Champions Complex in WSU Athletics, and just this week, a $3 million gift to primarily support the College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences Rural Health Initiative. University-wide outright gifts and new pledges for FY22 to date total $31 million. That's a 66.3% increase over the same period to a year ago. The WSU Foundation endowment value continues to be strong through the first quarter of FY22. It's at, as of September 30th, it's at $660 million, which is a high water mark for our endowment. This represents a 12-month return of 26.3%. We will send a follow-up endowment summary report for the quarter to Desiree to distribute to the Board of Regents when it is available. And I got word that that should be available later today. We're in the midst of planning for the next WSU campaign. We've been assessing our current campaign counting guidelines and how they compare to the most current case standards that came out in March of this year. And this fall, we began establishing a series of campaign trainings sessions for advancement teams, university leaders, academic leaders, and our volunteers to grow our collective knowledge base around leading campaign principles as we move forward in our next campaign. The campaign organizing committee, chaired by Dan Harmon, class of 1980, has been meeting bi-monthly since April via Zoom. This 9-member campaign organization committee is charged with charting a course for volunteer engagement and leadership throughout the campaign. This committee will also help us with campaign feasibility, evaluate institutional support, and volunteer resources and structure. It would also assist in developing a timeline for our campaign success, including the recruitment of a campaign steering committee, and will help shape the purpose and focus of the campaign moving forward. This group actually met in person in Pullman just last month. During that meeting, they met with college deans and academic leaders from across the institution and learned about the visions and priorities for their individual areas. Priorities and funding opportunities and themes will continue to be refined in the month ahead as campaign planning continues. I'm very, very pleased to be able to share these wonderful numbers, but I'd like the Board of Regents to know that the advancement team realizes these are more than numbers on a page. They represent the faculty, the students, and the great work that the university does and helps provide some of those resources. And that dedication is embodied by people like Jim Miltenberger, who's with us here this morning. Are there any questions for me?
Well, that's quite a number, 51.6 million. So thank you, and job well done by many of you. This is hard work. Raising money is not an easy thing. And to be up 18% from the year prior, coming in the middle of a pandemic, I think speaks volumes for the foundation, but also for the really good work that our different departments within the campus and the system are doing. I was really glad to see something from the accounting. I mean, accountants deserve to have money too, even though they hold it from us all the time.
Well, would like to acknowledge President Schultz kind of paved the way for us to start opening up our fundraising operations coming out of COVID. As you can imagine, many of our teams spend a lot of time on the roads in the homes of our donors and our friends and alumni, and starting that back up after COVID.
Hard.
President Schultz really kind of opened that door for us.
Excellent. That's great.
So if there's no questions,
Well, yeah, thank you. Job well done,
very
Don.
much.
Excellent. Great report.
Yeah, Noel suggested it'd be better for our marriage if I was out of the house.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I did, so.
Well, that's what comes along with being a YouTube star. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm stopped at the airport all the time. Aren't you? Did you do that university YouTube thing?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, with 6 views.
Right.
That was me. Yeah, that was me watching it
Yeah,
5
you
times.
3 times over. Okay,
Sorry.
moving along.
It's like, Kurt, why don't you go out?
Doug,
Yep.
good to see you. We have Doug Call, our Faculty Senate Chair, on the line here with us. We can see you in 3D there, Doug, and your background's beautiful.
Beautiful,
So nice. Tell us where that picture is from.
Oh, sure. That's a photo I took when I was running a raft down the Grand Canyon this last May. So that's down in Arizona.
Nice. See, so it's not a stock photo, right?
Oh, no, I took that one. That was a lovely trip. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to the board. And this will be a fairly short report. The written one that you have in your packet there mostly chronicles the Faculty Senate effort to clarify language in the faculty manual regarding leave without pay status for faculty who are being investigated for breaking legal tenet. I just want to do a shout out to Professor Judy McDonald's leadership, to the Faculty Affairs Committee, and Vice Provost Laura Hill's efforts at the Office of the Provost and others in those units that helped get that done in a timely fashion. And the Faculty Status Committee continued their work to ensure that we're bringing the highest quality standards and opportunities for our students, both graduate and undergraduate, across the campus and in Faculty Affairs. And I just want to shout out again to the committees and their chairs, because it's a lot of work. And when we have come to our Faculty Senate meeting, things are very smooth because the footwork's been done. So it's been very nice, a great team that we're working with here. Speaking of which, the executive committee continues to meet monthly with the president and the provost, and I'm pleased to report that we have had fantastic discussions about various concerns and ideas. The staff have been incredibly responsive and covering a lot of different details. Upcoming legislative session in Washington, particularly for the salary increases for faculty and staff, which we're very excited about that possibility. We've been discussing strategies for salary equity adjustments, discussing more flexibility for setting salary offers for recruitment and retention of staff and faculty, discussing issues surrounding over-reliance on perennial one-year contracts for our career track faculty, and discussing new models for supporting staff and faculty accommodation. So these are all really important issues in shared governance here across the entire system. And we've had great participation from across the system, again, at the Faculty Senate level, and a very cooperative and really solution-driven atmosphere throughout our efforts with the administration. And next meeting will be on December 9th, and we're looking forward to Provost Chilton and VP for Finance Administration, Stacy Pearson's presentations on what they're thinking about in terms of potential new budget model for across the entire system. And happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Doug? Doug, I have a question. Just as you near the end of this first semester and kind of having faculty back in full swing, what is the morale and how is faculty feeling about being back in person? And what are you hearing and seeing as far as students' engagement as well?
Well, I mean, I think everybody initially reported getting us to be back in person. Certainly extremely happy to do that. And as Mel pointed out over in Vancouver, as the months went on and we found this the situation with COVID was manageable, I think people really settled down a lot in terms of anxiety. People are tired. They're burned quite a bit in terms of effort. This has been a heavy lift, but people are hanging in there. I think I'm overall feeling a fairly optimistic atmosphere amongst faculty. Again, I think that lends itself to the fact that we're seeing solution-driven discussions both in the Senate and with the administration. So that raises people's spirits quite a bit. My interactions with primarily with graduate students, they're working hard. People are thrilled to be back in the lab and other places to get their job done. So hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Well, Laura did a nice job yesterday. Laura Hill did, speaking to our board. So glad that communication is going well. And I think on just behalf of the Board of Regents, we would say, and if you would carry the thank you to the faculty for just their efforts and their continued efforts in showing up each day for our students. That's not lost on any of us of the work that goes into that in a very uncertain time. And we just appreciate them providing certainty for our WSU students.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along, we have Mondo, our ASWSU Vancouver president. Glad to have you back again.
Thank you all so much for this opportunity. Perfect. Well, thank you and welcome to Vancouver. I just want to take an opportunity to reflect on last year. I had the amazing opportunity to present on behalf of ASWCV and how things were different. We were on Zoom, most of us, and some background information. My house had just flooded, so I was presenting to you all on like a concrete floor and like boxes around me. And to be here in this room with all of you and have this opportunity to share this space, truly in a surreal moment. And I also want to take an opportunity to thank the ASWCV student leaders who truly have made everything that I am going to be presenting on possible. They are the inspiration that I draw from. So going into this year, ASWCV really focused on our strategic plan that we presented to the board last year. And as a recap, the strategic plan included increasing access and opportunity with mental, physical, and food resources on our campus, cultivating a community of belonging, supportingness, and inclusion, as well as fighting systemic barriers and being advocates for social justice. In addition, we wanted to prioritize our environment as an investment into the future. With our guiding strategic plan, we also needed to be very flexible and deal with the new reality that was student advocacy post-COVID-19. And suddenly, the most important thing of all of us was welcoming our students back on campus in a safe and appropriate manner. We had so many thoughts and different ideas of what the fall would look like. Ultimately, none of those turned out to be the case. Fall sort of just went by within a blink of an eye. But nonetheless, we were able to be just and fill in those new roles that we needed to. And even within that, we have learned that through failures, barriers, or not failures, learning opportunities, we have learned that we can continue stronger, we can continue better, we can continue together, and we can continue by inviting others to move forward with us, because ultimately that is how we see the future of ASWCV. And speaking on the future, we've also used this opportunity to reflect and ask, why is this way? Why does this have to be done that? Why can't it be that? You know, really understanding and comprehending and looking at ASWCV and seeing if we are still fully advocating for students the best way we can, given the new environment that we are in. And it has truly been amazing to be able to work with such amazing student leaders. And they have really led the work in this field. And our goal is to really ensure and think also about how we're setting up the future leaders who come when we're gone. Evans and I have had very lucky to be in this position for 2 years. And as a result, we have some institutional knowledge, we have connections, we have learning opportunities from the past to draw on. But when we entered these roles, we didn't have any of that to really grasp onto. So now Evans and I with the ASWCV team are really ensuring that next year's leaders and the leaders that come after that are as successful as they possibly could, and ensure that we have provided them the resources to do so. And ultimately, we know this work will never end, but we are honored to be a part of it and continue the work to ensure that all of the students have the best time here at WSU Vancouver. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions or concerns or comments.
Questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I mentioned this yesterday, but I just thought at the groundbreaking, the sign that you had where you just gotten different words from the students about what people were thinking about with the building was super cool. So thank you for doing that. I think it's heartfelt. It's kind of interesting to read it. Well, I was, of course, listening carefully to what you said, but when it was there on that poster in front of me and not blowing down, it was well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
I really appreciate that.
One question. How has the, I know last year, and by the way, am I remembering you had a cat in?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Cat made a big impression on me. But how has the food insecurity been? I know that was a part of what you were concerned about last year.
Yeah, so I'm actually really lucky. So I'm an integrated strategic communication major, and within I'm reaching my final classes. And one of my classes is get to work with an organization on campus and really understand that organization and how to better make that organization for the students. And this year, that group chose the food pantry on our campus. And we have been working with Kyle, who's the student worker, as well as some of the other leaders in there, to really come up with a really comprehensive plan on how to revision the Cook Food Pantry to fit the needs of our students. And really throughout that work, we've been able to identify, we've hosted focus groups on talking to students, and we've been able to identify that there is the resources are there, but perhaps we can connect those resources with the students a little bit better. And we plan on doing that by having more visibility of the Cook Food Pantry, but also through a digital and comprehensive communication and strategy plan that that group of students created to present to the Cook Food Pantry. And then in addition to sort of like student efforts to support the pantry, we just revitalized that space to host like a walk-in freezer and things like that, to provide more resources for students. And ASWCV also just donated a whole bunch of warm clothing for the Thanksgiving boxes that are coming up next week. And some of our members get to assist in making those Thanksgiving boxes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds like good progress.
Yes, and I can go on and on. We have food in Full Smoke Student Commons and OSI 24/7 to ensure that students, it's just the setup that food's there and it's for you. There's no questions asked.
Excellent. Anything else? Great, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we have President Samantha Busen of GSA Vancouver. And I'm sorry, did I say pronounce your last name correctly? Is it Busen?
Actually, I'm not Sam. I'm Becca.
Oh, okay.
But Sam broke her leg, and so she is in the hospital right now. So I'm filling in. She's okay. She's fine. But so yeah, I'm Becca. I'm the treasurer of the Graduate Student Association.
Well, thanks for joining us, Becca. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. So I'll just give a really brief overview. So we were founded in September of 2019, and our main goal and objective was to really be an advocate for graduate students at WSU Vancouver. Pullman has a robust graduate student association, and we wanted to bring that to the Vancouver campus. We wanted to be an advocate for students by connecting them with opportunities. We also are working on several different objectives that we have had success with and continue to work on, such as increasing our graduate student stipend for cost of living increases, working on adequate healthcare for graduate students, and working on creating pathways for graduate students to connect with faculty and administration. We've also been working to bring students together across the campus by hosting events such as workshops and writing lock-ins, and we provided support during the stay-at-home order. We regularly are meeting with the chancellors as well as with the GPSA in Pullman to create a broad community across all of the campuses. And we've had good success so far, and yeah, we're just continuing to work on that.
And Becca, what are you studying and what year are you in your graduate program?
I am a fourth year PhD student in biology.
Oh, excellent. Yes. We were talking about people like you yesterday. I'm just so excited to have more women in that field and doing wonderful things.
So thank you. We've been, so we're really excited about this. It's still, new, but we've gotten funding through the school, and we've been hosting different events and getting a lot of really great support from the faculty and from the administration.
So do you have numbers of how many members of GSAV do you have at this time? Do you know?
So unfortunately, it's still dominated by the natural sciences because we started it, and we are trying to work on getting people involved from across the other departments. It's difficult because we are always on campus because we have to be in the lab and things like that, whereas other people maybe they're in English or math, and they can teach, especially now they're teaching via Zoom or things like that, so they aren't always on campus. So as of now, we have about technically to be a member, you only have to come to one meeting. So we have about 70 members, but we haven't had, we're working, we're getting more people engaged, and we hope to continue with that. So we're still working on getting more engagement. But.
Great, thank you. Other questions, you guys, for Becca? All right, thank you for joining us this morning, and please wish Samantha well.
Oh, I will, thanks.
Okay, moving along here, we have President Anna McLeod, who is the Administrative Professional Advisory Council. President of the Administrative Professional Advisory Council.
Great.
Good morning, Anna.
Good morning, everyone. This is my first in-person Board of Regents meeting, so it is very exciting to be here today. So thank you for having me. So APAC, we've been fairly busy this semester. As I've mentioned in my previous reports, we are working on renewing our strategic plan for our council. In doing that, our council recommended that we survey our AP constituents from across the WSU system. So that survey closed on November 15th. We are very excited. We had over 20% of our AP constituents respond to our survey. So our results are, we're very proud, and they're outstanding. We have not had a chance to fully go through all of the results yet, but we wanted to provide you with a little bit of information preliminary before we provide our full report of the results. It's been mentioned in some of the previous presentations today that there is quite a big mass resignation among staff. We're seeing it, we're feeling it. Some of our top results that we pulled out of our survey is our staff are feeling those vacancies. They're worried that we're not going to fill them with the low applicant pools and recruitment. And there is a concern of with the vacancies of these positions that more work is going to be piled onto staff. We're feeling it. That was one of the top responses when we asked about the work environment. They ranked concerned over unfilled positions, low applicant pools, and then the increased workloads due to the vacancies. With that, I wanted to do a little bit of national research just to see what's out there. Is this just a WSU problem? And it's not. It is across higher ed in general, not even just at national level, but a world level. I looked at articles in Inside Higher Ed And then Salesforce actually did a huge study on workforce in higher ed, and all the findings are the same. So APAC, we are committed to helping our fellow AP employees to find solutions to support them in the work that they're doing. We've also had conversations at our monthly meetings with President Schultz and Provost Chilton and Teresa Elliott Cheslick about ways that APAC can support staff in these times. That is kind of a preliminary report on that. We will have a full report at our next meeting once we have a chance to go through our entire results. There are quite a few. We had quantitative and qualitative results, so we have to read through all those. Another thing we're working on, like I said, our strategic plan. We had a chance to present that to President Schultz and Provost Chilton and get some feedback on the work that we're doing with that plan. And we should have that adopted at our January meeting if approved by our council. So we'll have that to share as well. And then our goals moving forward for the rest of the year. We're really focusing on supporting our staff, the AP staff across the system. We've already had kind of a membership drive and awareness drive in Pullman to bring awareness to the APAC Council, what we do and the work that we do and how others can get involved. Because the council itself is feeling those strains on time and leaders wanting to be involved in the council. So that is really my report for today. It is very short. I hope to have a little bit more information for you at the January meeting, but I will take any questions or comments, and thank you for your time.
Did you, in your survey, were there any questions around intent to stay?
You know, we did not have that in there specifically. I can tell you in just my overview of the results, there are concerns, we've talked about it with salary and equitable pay, the flexibility in work schedules, working remotely. There are some concerns as well with some of the new recruitment techniques are to offer a little bit more flexible schedule, maybe remote work, where the people who are in positions within departments already are not getting that same flexibility. So there are some concerns there. We did not specifically ask about intent to stay.
Thank you. Heather.
What overall, how much vacancy do we have, or what's the percentage shrinkage in the amount of workers that in those areas?
That's a really good question. We are working with HRS to get that information. It varies because of all the different areas and departments. I can say just from our council, we've lost 4 people since July that have resigned from the university altogether. And then
out of how many?
30. And on the Everett campus, that's where I'm from, we've lost quite a few staff within the last month. So we're seeing it. I do not have actual numbers to give you today, but I can get those.
Okay. Any other questions or feedback? Yes, Shane.
When you're getting that data, can you also see if there's any demographic data? I'm just curious if we're losing like women more frequently, or people of color, or anything else.
Any themes?
Yeah. Anything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. Thank you.
Question: what's the main reason for leaving?
I think the flexible work schedules. Throughout the pandemic, staff had a heavy load, right? We did a lot of work to keep everything we needed for students and the university mission moving forward. So staff are tired. And that additional workload with vacancies, because someone has to do it, and we have that initiative to make sure that we meet the needs of students and the university mission. That I think we're tired, burnt out, and then not having that flexible work schedule and flexibility to work remotely, I should say, not work schedule. Over about a year and a half, we all did our jobs from home, and then it was forced back in person. And of course, we have duties to meet the needs of students in person, but we were able to balance that during the remote pandemic world. So I think that's part of it. And then also just salary. There hasn't been increases unless change of positions have been made. in quite a while. So people are able to go out and get jobs that have that flexibility for remote work, as well as an increase in salary.
Okay, thank you very
Great.
much. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much.
Next up, we have our Alumni Association President, Shelley Spangler. Shelley is coming to us via Zoom. So good morning, Shelley. We see you up there.
Awesome. Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Board of Regents and President Schultz for having me. I'm really excited because I get to speak to you guys today about one of my favorite things that the Alumni Association does, and that is recognizing amazing Cougs. So I think that we can all agree that Washington State University is an amazing, remarkable institution, and it's an institution that shapes and nurtures extraordinary people, and it supports them in doing extraordinary things. And so the very best of the best we get to recognize through one of WSUAA's prestigious array of awards. I'll start with our Top 10 Seniors Award. This again is one of my absolute favorites. Each year, 10 seniors from across the WSU system are honored for their achievements in academics, athletics, their campus involvement or community involvement, or their accomplishments in visual or performing arts. This is really a great representation of the absolute best that Washington State has to offer. And it's a really fun way for the rest of our community to get to see how amazing our students are and how accomplished they are before they enter the world. Of the 10 top 10 seniors that we were able to award last May, a couple notable things. One was an electrical engineering major from our Everett campus, who worked as the WSUE Student Civic Leader Fellow through the Washington Campus Compact. We had a civil engineering major from the Pullman campus, who is a 4-year member of Engineers Without Borders. We had a digital technology and culture major from the Tri-Cities campus, who earned the ASWSU's TC's Perseverance Award for excellent work. And then we also had a business student from the Vancouver campus who established the Volunteer Income Tax Club, which assists low-income individuals and the elderly with their taxes. So just an amazing array of student accomplishment to award. Recently, we were able to award the Honorary Alumnus Award. This is the highest honor that the WSUAA bestows on an individual who didn't attend Washington State University. So in September, the Tri-Cities campus dedicated the new General James N. Mattis Leadership Library. And part of that dedication was awarding the Honorary Alumnus Award to General Mattis. You know, General Mattis has been a long-time contributor to Washington State University and specifically to the Tri-Cities campus. He frequently offers his time and support to student and staff veterans, both in the community and on campus as well. So what a wonderful opportunity to recognize him. The Cougar Pride Award recognizes alumni, students, faculty, staff, friends of the university who just consistently demonstrates amazing Cougar spirit, right? And so over the homecoming weekend, we got to present the Cougar Alumni Award to Andy Edlund. He's class of 1994. And if you don't know Andy, you may know him better as being the owner of a very popular social media figure, Dash Dog. Dash is a 10-year-old golden retriever. And if you've not had a chance to see Dash or meet Dash walking around campus or maybe at the Coug, Dash is just a delight. He is really just a really good boy. And so is Andy as well. Andy is a true Coug to the core. He frequently uses Dash. I checked this morning, Dash has over 41,000 Instagram followers. And he uses Dash's, it's amazing. He uses Dash's online persona quite a bit to benefit Washington State, the Alumni Association, and other community programs. They've raised over $100,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So just a really amazing Coug, both of them. And I'll share, I absolutely love Dash and Andy as well, but we recently moved to Seattle and my husband asked me, well, you know, how are we gonna meet people? How are we gonna know where to go? And I just said, well, we're just gonna go wherever Dash is on Instagram that day. So that was the plan. Finally, the Alumni Achievement Award is the highest honor that the Alumni Association has. And it's an honor recognizing absolutely outstanding service and contribution to WSU, to someone in their profession, their impact on the community and beyond. So this fall, over homecoming weekend, we got to honor Dr. Craig Nishimoto for recognition of 37 years of distinguished service as a veterinarian and a volunteer in human and animal health, both in his home community in Hawaii and abroad. We were able to have a ceremony on the campus, and a lot of Dr. Nishimoto's family and colleagues and folks that he's touched through his work were able to join us both in person and virtually. And it was just an amazing way to honor a Coug. I'll also point out that his daughter, Christine, is a soon-to-be graduate of the College of Vet Med, and I know that she plans to stay involved through Washington State University through the Alumni Association as well. So I'm really excited for that. And with that, I will pause and ask if there are any questions.
Well, that's a great report. I would say thank you for really acknowledging Cougs across our entire system, which I think is so important, and it's so amazing to see the unbelievable work being done by Cougs all over the U.S., and obviously at the country. So, with the borders. So, how are you seeing membership with the Alumni Association, and what do those numbers feel like, and how have you sustained through COVID? And
yeah, that's a great question. So, membership numbers and engagement have continued to grow, even through the impacts of COVID. I know that the Alumni Association staff, as well as our, wide network of volunteers across the country, are super excited to be planning in-person events again. And to looking for, more traditional ways to engage our alumni and Cougs across the country. But I don't think I'm overreaching when I say that Cougar spirit is pandemic proof. And so we've certainly seen our community grow even throughout the pandemic.
Thank you. So perhaps we need to consider making Dash an honorary Coug.
There you go.
Since he has more followers than the president.
I don't know what his YouTube numbers are, Dr. Schultz. It may not be competitive.
Well, we could put him on the YouTube channel with President Schultz, and that might help get the ratings up.
Yeah, up to double digits. Yeah. Double digits.
Shelley, thank you. You're an excellent spokesperson for the Alumni Association. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Okay. Des, are we allowed to have a break? Okay.
You're the chairperson. So.
No, yeah, right. So you know what? Let's take a 5-minute break and return at 9:30. Everybody just quickly take a breather and we'll be back. This is the dinner bell. This is the dinner bell. This is the warning, right? Like, I'm being nice, let's sit down.
Please, it's not broken and you have to tape it back together.
Yeah. Okay.
I got quiet quick.
Wow, thanks, everybody. I didn't even have to really use the gavel.
I'm going to move away.
Can't imagine with that.
That's not looking good.
Are we good to go? Are we live yet?
Kyle, are we good? Yep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome back. We are moving into the Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee report. We do have one action item, which is surrounds our 2023 Board of Regents meeting schedule. Gosh, that's kind of hard to think about, but okay. So I'm looking for a motion to approve and adopt resolution number 211119647 and approve the 2023 Board of Regents meeting schedule as proposed.
So moved.
Thank you, Heather. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this?
No, just a request that they get put on our calendar
Yeah. I'm busy
immediately
that
after this meeting.
Okay. Yeah, we'll make sure that we do that. It's so weird to not have Des behind me right now.
Yeah, it's all good. Just keep rolling.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we will move into our committee reports now. So our Student Affairs and Student Life Committee report.
Hello, and we had a very good report and presentation yesterday from Ellen Taylor, Vice President, or Interim Vice President, I should say, for Student Affairs, Jill Creighton, Dean of Students and Associate Vice President for Campus Life, and Dominic Thomas, who's Vice Chancellor for Student Enrollment here in Vancouver. We talked about mental health and also initiatives to help students that are homeless or that have housing security issues. Regarding the mental health initiatives that are going on, we have been involved with an effort called Protocol, a membership there. And it is like a crisis line service for the students. It is going to be upgraded, mainly because we've gotten some funds restored for that, according to what we heard from Student Affairs. And the dollars there will provide equity and retention salary increases for mental health providers, as well as disability access advisors. This is an after-hours crisis service. There's digital help tools. There's peer-moderated by trained practitioners there. There's also a referral network. I think also during the time of COVID, what we learned is that Zoom actually was something that was a positive, I think, in getting students to seek some help. A lot of students, either for various reasons, stigma, culture, they have a tough time maybe admitting the fact that they have a mental health issue. But I think through Zoom, it gives them an opportunity to have a kind of a telehealth and also to keep their privacy and to seek help. So that, as I understood, has been a good thing that had happened out of that. There's also efforts to provide, it's a pilot program with funding that came from the legislature. We have a 2-year grant, $93,000 for each year. And as part of that, this is helping students that are experiencing homelessness, housing insecurity, and the students that are also exiting foster care. And you age out, and so they need some help if they don't have a place to live. It's a grant that allocates the $93,000 a year. Also, the special attention to those historically marginalized communities and populations. And the support for this also provides funding for a professional staff position, a fundamental needs manager, which they'll be hiring. Again, it's peer focused as far as providing navigators and trainers to help those that need some help, providing some emergency emergency funding if they need help for storage or finding a place to live or finding some information to pay for utilities, those types of things. And also things like gas and bus cards, laundry, those types of things of move-in supplies that someone might need. And on top of this too, there's also going to be a statewide survey that they will be conducting to kind of assess what we're looking at here. I think when it comes, I remember that I think there was about 2,000 students, about 10% of the student population regarding mental health needs that were provided some services. I think the homelessness, this probably will, the assessment will give a better indication of how many students are out there with needs that are homeless. So that's our report.
I have a question. You know, we talk a lot about a 51 million that we raise from the foundation, and we understand the big ticket things and the sexy things that money goes to and that donors tend to lean into. For things like this, and, you know, when we do an assessment like this and we actually have an understanding of homelessness system-wide or food security, how do we look to fundraising? Because I think there's a lot of individuals out there that want to give to those types of things and know where those dollars are going. From a student affairs standpoint, or even from a fundraising, how do we do a better job of providing how that's accessible for people who want to give or to be a part of the solution on that?
I think that has to be part of the pitch, you know, for when we're talking to those that are going to either join the Alumni Association, or even when Kirk is out there meeting with funders.
I mean, I think there's a poor perception, not an unfair perception maybe, that we think that because a student is at a four-year university, they have food.
Well, I think there was one of the things we talked about this as being an invisible population, because who wants to admit that they are homeless or that they are having trouble? So I think that's part of it as well. You know, so I don't know. You want to address that?
Let me start. One of the things that we're doing with Ellen and her student affairs team is just getting her in front of more of our donors that have interest in these types of spaces before. So Ellen's now in the football box. Next season, she will be in the football box every game. And we just need her to just be in front of folks more often. And, you know, my job is, if somebody's got an interest in a particular area, is to get them with the appropriate vice president or dean or chancellor, and really allow that person that really has passion and understanding in that area to really be able to do that. And we, I met with a former student regent in the Bay Area, you know, not too long ago, that had supported a bunch of other things in athletics and stuff. Very into the conversation, he goes, "Oh, I know you guys have this ROAR program, the College of Education. I'd like to learn more." So we pass that off. And anyway, I think there's going to be a nice gift that goes to that. So our job is to listen when people are interested in these things, and then let Ellen and her team take that person and kind of run with it. And Ellen, what would you add to that?
I was told to come up here so the microphone could catch me. The only thing I'd add is just affirming all of that. I think, and I had a great conversation with Mike Connell with the foundation about this last week, that sort of myth that donors are only interested in sort of the big sexy things, facilities, et cetera. I think a lot of them care about the student stories, and they care about student success, and they care about students getting to WSU, any or all of our campuses, and getting to the end of that degree program and walking or rolling across the stage and picking up that diploma or that master's degree or that doctorate degree, professional degree. So I think there's some opportunities, and I'll just echo everything Kirk has said. I've been sort of leaning hard into that. It's a learning curve for me, but I'm having a great time doing it and really thinking about how can we leverage that that pandemic-proof Coug spirit of our alums and our supporters to really focus also on student success, and student success means basic needs and those things too.
Well, I just, you know, the alumni, we have great spirit, and sometimes we're not great givers, right? We can be better check writers for the spirit that we carry versus the check writing. I think we can do better. but I also think that there is a barrier for people who want to give, because there's a misnomer around, well, maybe $1,000 isn't that big of a deal, but it's what I could afford to do. And I think that there's an entry point for Cougs to be able to give to something really meaningful, like food security or shelter or mental health stuff, and it gets them in the door. So it's a benefit to the WSU system as a whole anyways, in teaching them how to give. So
yeah, may I also add that if you have students that are willing to tell their story too about how they've been helped,
yeah,
that's a great
so powerful,
making the connection.
Yeah. Yes.
And I just want to say that Ellen is just a real big champion for all of this. Great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Regent Blankenship.
Stay.
Thank you for still being here. One of the takeaways.
You mean today or just in general?
Oh, yeah.
Why are you looking at me? It's like, wow.
Yeah. So one of the takeaways, to Marty's point, if I understood you right yesterday, when some of the mental health issues can become evident, and it sounds like, man, we got to do something, and that we have staffing challenges to meet some of those needs. Right. But we also, there's some unrealistic expectations on student affairs to provide full mental health services. And I'm thinking your focus is, how can we provide support for successful student experience versus full-blown mental health counseling? And I think there's a difference between those two things.
I think it'll go back to the Protocol Plus program that we shared in committee yesterday. And one of the things that's so exciting about that is it is starting to intervene early, with the mental health crisis that we're experiencing nationally in college, and pre-pandemic, and the pandemic exacerbated it. We've got to figure out ways to move upstream. And what we want to do is use the least intrusive and least expensive interventions as early as possible, so that we're heading off the kinds of crises that students can experience that actually result that can send them home, that can result in not persisting in college, and can also require more expensive, to be honest, interventions. So I think the more we can shift upstream, and the Protocol Plus is an example of a great opportunity to do that, to provide tools for students who don't yet need full-on mental health services, but need some support, need that. And it's got some online text tools, it's got peer support, all of those other things built in that are a lower level of intervention. And we want to put as many eggs in that early intervention and prevention basket as possible.
That's what I wanted the full board to hear.
I would, Marty, to your point around giving though, if we look at our single giving day this last year, raised over 700,000. Those are a lot of $200, $100 gifts, things like that. And so I'll talk to Don and Mike, because, look, I need to be spending my time on a lot of 7-figure gifts. That's what you expect the president to do. But we can also, when we do these reports here, I know, talk about just number of gifts in different ranges, because we have a tremendous number of people writing those $100, $250 checks to support different things at the institution. Just normally here, we talk about, hey, we got this $3.5 million gift, and it takes everybody to get to the results that we have. So we can talk about that a little more by just providing a couple quick kind of snapshots, so you go, okay, there's people at all levels supporting the university.
Yeah,
it's the grassroots,
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Don's
Regent
typing
Cerna
away,
for a good report.
more to do,
Yeah, Don's over there texting right now.
Yeah, it's like Kurt said something again. Yeah,
seriously.
can't shut him up.
Okay, next up is Regent Powell, and providing the Research and Academic Affairs Committee report.
Okay, thank you. We had a really interesting time, although we had no action items, but we had some very interesting information items. Laura Griner Hill started us off with just a summary of faculty manual revisions. You already heard about the main one during the report by Doug Call this morning that talked about the leave without pay situation. And then the other information we had under delegated authority was to rename the Bachelor of Arts women's study degree to be the Bachelor of Arts in Women's Gender and Sexuality Studies. Then we sort of got into the meat of some of the things that we wanted to talk about, and Laura basically walked us through a transformational change initiative that was started back in 2016 as part of an internal strategic reallocation process. This was really interesting because there's three strategies that came out of this. One was to provide a parent handbook for students, which basically was helping. A lot of times parents have a tendency to feel like, well, their kid goes to college and they need to back off and not be as hands-on as they are when they're in high school. This in turn basically tells parents and gives them guidance and samples of things to do that encourages them to coach the students, to sort of do some safety monitoring as best they can for risk behaviors, and also be cheerleaders for their students. So it's just sort of like the inverse of what happens often. And so the other next initiative is one that basically is called the LIFT, which is Learn, Inspire, Foster, and Transform, which actually creates a faculty fellows program and basically helps them implement some real high impact classroom practices, such as fostering a growth mindset, increasing the sense of belonging, and teaching values based on decision making. There's also a companion launch program where students go through the program to sort of learn what their goals, their personal values and strengths are, and gives them some experiential learning opportunities and helps them plan their academic journey. Now, the interesting part about this is, even though it's a fairly new program, it is definitely producing statistical results, statistically significant results. You start basically the handbook process with parents guiding students in the high school realm. And we looked at data that showed the difference in things like student alcohol use and student cannabis use. And it is very significantly lower when the parents have been involved in this handbook process than it would be for a control group where there wasn't the parental involvement, which is really a good sign. And so far, this has been carried out through fourth semester, and those results continue. For the other two programs, the Lift and Launch programs, they looked at student retention. And again, statistically significant data that showed for those students that went, or where the faculty had gone through the program in the case of the Lift program, and where the students went through the Launch program, in both cases, it showed increased retention for students. So I think these are going to continue. They've shown that they are scalable. So it's a great start to, I think, help our students stay in college, to stay healthy, lower risk. And so I think it's a great product. And in fact, it's so good that statewide they have been asked to reproduce that handbook and get that disseminated, because it's being recognized that that's an effective means. And our next section, we basically talked more on the research side. Chris Keene led us through the update on awards that we've gotten in, and I'm pleased to say that each year we continue to get more and more grants in, which is a really positive sign. And that in spite of COVID and all the challenges there. But we've also gotten some very, very large grants. There's a $20 million one for agricultural artificial intelligence, a $10 million one on optimizing human health and nutrition, on soil to society. There's another one on rivers, watersheds, and community that's about $3 million. Transforming rural urban systems, and that one's about well, our share of it is about 1.6 million. But the big prize is the one that President Schultz talked about in his report, and that's the 125 million to discover and explore pathogens and viral zoonoses. So I'm not going to go into that anymore, except to say this is a little bit different from the rest of our grants. It's actually a cooperative agreement. So we actually are sharing responsibility 50-50 with USAID, who's the funding agent. So, I mean, it's something that is going to have clearly a very important worldwide impact on health in general. So that is my report, and it was an interesting day.
It was a great report. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please.
Just to comment further with Regent Powell's notes, I was really inspired by the presence we have in Kenya and Tanzania through those projects, and that massive award is going to reach out to 12 other countries in the world. And so I just wanted to emphasize the point that WSU and academic excellence is what inspires those awards, and those awards then builds and strengthens our outreach to the rest of the world. And so recognizing our faculty and all the team members that build on academic excellence, I think is just a tremendous accomplishment. So President Schultz,
Thank you for
congratulations.
that. I would also like to ask Laura, if I made any mistakes when I was going through your presentation, just let me know.
It was a good presentation, Laura.
It was great. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Regent Powell. Next up, we have Regent Redmond that will review the Institutional Infrastructure Committee.
Great. Thank you very much. We had a pretty light agenda, but some very good time for discussion as a result. So the first thing that we focused on was a presentation primarily by Pat Chun, and with some backup from Stacy, but on the really significant success that he has had with the support of the entire university in raising funds for 2 new facilities that will be the backbone of our student athletes. And so, as you probably all know, we have a bubble solution right now for our indoor practice facility, and it's past its useful life. And so there's been a need to develop a new indoor practice facility, both for the winter period, but also, unfortunately, increasingly for the summer period because of air quality issues in Pullman. So he has got some amazing news, particularly accelerating in the last month or so on capital raise for the new indoor practice facility that'll benefit baseball, track and field, football, women's soccer, et cetera. So that's progressing very well. We're very excited about that. And I should underline that this facility and the other facility that I will mention have no state dollars or student fees or tuition support whatsoever. This is all private philanthropy that is earmarked specifically for these purposes. So not only is it not using funds other than philanthropy, but that philanthropy also would not be available for other uses, because I know everyone always has concerns about is athletics taking something that could go to something else. So that is going very well. And then the other piece, which ties in somewhat to the issues that Regent Cerna was raising, is a facility, and I want to get the name right here, the Champions Complex, that will be a support system for academic, mental health, and other services for all of our student athletes that is very much needed. And so that fundraising for that project is also going extremely well. So it wasn't an action item. It was just a desire to bring those 2 things forward, give us an update, and tell us, how well we're progressing on both of those. And then the other discussion that we had that was lengthier was led by our new VP, Christine Hoyt, and her new title, just to remind everybody, is a VP of Strategy, Planning, and Analysis. And so we were talking about what I would characterize as sort of the next big modernization effort that the university needs to really put its attention to, which is to take our whole digital infrastructure, including the data that can be delivered by that digital infrastructure and the legacy data that we have, and find a way to really bring that up to the highest level, and really lead the way on digital modernization across the entire university. Some of this is about risk mitigation. Quite honestly, we've got legacy systems and siloed systems that need to go away so that we can have the most robust security and the most robust access to information and data that we can possibly have to prevent not only data leakage, but also all the other activities that really rely on data in order to mitigate risk. So it's a necessary as well as something that will provide great upside. The process of looking into this and resourcing it is still very early, but our committee is very excited to have infrastructure be both the built environment as well as the digital environment as we move forward into the next era. I think that is it.
Thank you. Questions, comments for Regent Redmond? Okay, thank you. Next up is Regent Schauer, and she will be reviewing the Finance and Compliance Committee report.
Thank you. So our committee is a committee of the whole, and we already took action on a consent agenda item. We also have another action item today. We did review the athletics budget update, which I appreciate, and we heard good news. So that's also real positive to have an athletics budget update and to continue to see that our trajectory has really significantly changed and our fundraising is up. Including 7-figure gifts after about that October 19th timeline. Also important, and what we spent the bulk of our time together was having a presentation by Charles Kamerzel, who's our Chief Compliance and Risk Officer. She reports to the board twice per year, and so this was her opportunity to report out. And while she's been actively engaged in a lot of the COVID response, she's doing phenomenal work. And the presentation was really focused around the importance and the nexus between risk and compliance. And so very excited to not only see her present to the board twice a year, but also just the work that she's doing and the partnerships that were so evident within the university, whether that be with finance or even as she was sitting listening to the presentations around equity, how to infuse equity within her work. Just seems as though she's really becoming very integrated into the overall system, which is important from both a risk and compliance perspective. Let's see, so we also had a discussion around the WSU Vancouver Life Sciences building, which will be a future action item for request for an increase in the project budget, and then a proposed change to delegation of authority for parking rates and fines. Lastly, as I mentioned, we took on the action item for the revision during our consent agenda already, and we do have an action item today on the 2022 state supplemental operating budget request, which was a joint presentation. And what I really am excited about, there's a lot of really interesting components of our legislative agenda this year. This is our biggest ask that WSU will have in a supplemental budget year. It will require all of us at this table and beyond to be actively involved in helping to share the good news of WSU, and in particular, hopefully, really impact the need for compensation. So we've heard throughout our dialogue some of the areas where folks are worn out. We're seeing a great resignation. This is our #1 priority, and I hope that we can all kind of come together to really ensure that we're doing what we can to make this compensation increase happen. So I think with that, one other thing I just wanted to note that I'm excited about hearing Colleen and her team really advocate for is that synergy around engagement and third-party validation. So the idea that we're reaching out to organizations, they're reaching out to us, and together we're jointly advocating is really how I think we live that commitment to partnerships in its truest sense. So really appreciated hearing all of the continual great work out of that office, and our hope is we have a very productive legislative session again. And so with that, we do have an action item that I will, do you want me to go ahead and go ahead and move
That's
forward?
great.
Okay. So this is a motion for action. It's the 2022 state supplemental operating budget request. So I move that the Board of Regents adopt resolution number 21119-648 and approve the 2022 state supplemental operating budget request and delegate authority to the president or designee to approve any final adjustments needed related to the request.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion? Other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So moved.
Motion passes. Thank
Back
you.
to you, Chair Dickinson.
Thank you very much. Okay, where are we? We are now moving into other business. Yesterday afternoon, on November 18th, the Regents met in executive session with legal counsel to discuss pending or potential litigation involving the university. The Regents will not be taking any action related to those discussions at this time. So now we move to our portion of public comment, and we do have some individuals that are with us both virtually as well as in person today. So I want to remind those that will be speaking, you have 2 minutes to do that. And the first person I think we would like to go to is Mason Burns, who is a student who is joining us via Zoom. And his topic of discussion is divestment in fossil fuels. Good morning, Mason.
Good morning. My name is Mason Burns. I'm a second-year student at WSU Pullman, majoring in architecture. I'm a member of the WSU Student Organization Environmental Sustainability Alliance, and I'm deeply concerned about climate change because of the severe negative economic, environmental, and social impacts it will have if nothing is done to curb the fossil fuel consumption. WSU's investment continues that projection, but we are speaking to you because we can make an important change in our community. I'm an ESA committee organizing a campaign for fossil fuel divestment at WSU, and we want our university to commit to fully divesting in endowment funds from fossil fuel companies. These investments not only harm the environment, but are also risky financially given the increasing demand for alternate energy sources worldwide. On Wednesday, November 17th, we distributed a survey to all WSU students asking if they believe the university should divest. As within the first 24 hours of the survey, 674 students responded yes out of 946 said that they believe WSU should divest. That was 71% of the students taking the survey. We call on WSU administration to follow through on what these students believe and take responsibility for addressing climate change by removing their assets from companies involving in extracting fossil fuels. We also ask your help, members of the Board of Regents, in arranging a meeting with the WSU Foundation's Investment Committee. We believe dialogue with the committee is a formal meeting to be an appropriate next step in our campaign. It allows us to present our reasons for divestments in person and where they are likely to have the most impact. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mason. We appreciate your comments. Next up, we have another student by the name of Ryan Culp who joins us via Zoom. And Ryan will be speaking to us regarding divestment in fossil fuels as well. Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning.
I'm also with, I was with Mason Burns, and we are part of the same group, the ESA. So I'm not going to repeat what he said because that would just be a waste of time. But yeah, currently WSU is invested in fossil fuel extraction. And that's goes against WSU's goal of environmental, like green energy and sustainability. So, I think that's one of our main topics should be in order to reach our environmental goals. But that was, I think, most things. I do think there is strong reasons, like financially, to divest from fossil fuels now and not in 10 years. I see a projection for fossil fuels to go down. I see a divestment to be a strong opportunity, at least away from fossil fuels, preferably towards green energy. But that would be what I came here to comment on. That would
Excellent.
be. He's not here.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate your comments. Okay. We have one person that is, I believe, in person here today, Brenda Alling, affiliation with WSU, and here to speak to us about financial literacy. Thank you for joining us.
I'm Brenda Alling. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communication for Washington State University, Vancouver, and I lend some support to Tri-Cities as well. Thank you, Regent Redmond, for inspiring me to come before you today. You asked Mel a little while ago, what is the biggest barrier to enrollment? We share the biggest barrier to enrollment across our campuses, and it's financial literacy and financial aid education. Did you know that the state of Washington is number 49 out of 50 in filing the FAFSA? The FAFSA is a critical financial aid form to get any kind of funding. At the same time, in the state of Washington, we have the most generous state need grant in the nation. See the problem? Do you understand the numbers of students who could go to college who don't know that they can go to college? Mondo talked yesterday about the state need grant and the college bound scholarship, the college bound scholarship. Students sign up for the college bound scholarship in the 8th grade. Oftentimes by the time they get to be a junior or senior, they've forgotten that they've signed up for it. We remind them, but imagine if you are a first generation family, a first generation student, and you get a postcard from WSU Vancouver that says 4 years for free. Your first instinct might be to say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It is true. This year in the state of Washington, families of 4 who make $102,000 a year are still eligible for financial aid, but these students don't know it. It's a heavy lift to help educate our students and their families about how to obtain the financial aid. But we have an opportunity as an institution, as a university with an access mission to help these students. Listen to you today talking about all of the resources. We are uniquely positioned to support those students once they get to us. And by doing this, we help the state of Washington by increasing the baccalaureate attainment rate in the state. This is a huge opportunity for us, but we have to address this at all levels of the institution, from our recruiters and our financial aid people all the way up. Marketing, me, this is a huge part of what I do, is try to help families understand. We have an opportunity, and this is how we increase enrollment.
Thank you.
Cool.
Great public comment.
Yeah.
I don't know about anybody else, but I did not know those statistics. So thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Question for you. Could you send us something that is sort of succinct about the 2 programs? I mean, I know generally about them, but like the current eligibility and so forth, because I think as we're out and about talking to people, it'd be great to have whether they're a brochure or something that electronic that we could send to others, because I just think it's very powerful, and the more people that are out there trying to spread the word, the better it would be to get these students.
Exactly. We need to spread the word at all levels, and I can be succinct and I can provide that for you. And it's so important. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to had William Ingalls, staff member of Washington State University, wanting to speak on the topic of divestment of fossil fuels. Is he on the line? Is he present at this time? Okay. Okay. Well, we will officially close our public comment period. Thank you. So again, thank you everybody for being here. We are officially adjourning the Board of Regents meeting, and we will be reconvening January 21st and 22nd, and that will be a virtual meeting that we'll be hosting.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.